Podcast. 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 Yeah, welcome to the latest Racer X Exhaust podcast brought to you by Yoshimura and Racer X brand. Go to yoshimura-rd.com and check out their latest line of exhaust systems from the one if you're watching on video. Wait, no, over on this side, there's always a Yosh exhaust system on the Honda factory bikes, including the ones that won the world titles over the weekend with Jo Shimoda and Jett Lawrence. They even had a special championship pipe ready to put on the bikes for the team celebration. Now, you can't get one of those unless you win the title. But you can get an exhaust for your Honda, your Yamaha, your Suzuki, a Kawasaki, the Austrian bikes, Husqvarnas, and KTMs, and now Triumph as well. So go to yoshimura-rd.com and get an RS12 for your bike. It's also brought to you by Racer X brand. That's where you can get the Smokin' t-shirt. It's just a coincidence the way this looks. It's not designed to replicate any major sponsor brand of Supercross of the 1980s. Not at all. Check it out at racerxbrand.com. They got brand new OGO backpacks as well, which I really need to get myself one before Motocross of Nations. Today we're going to talk to the Ricky Johnson, the superstar. When I was growing up, it was all about him versus Jeff Ward. I will actually show him this photo of Jeff Ward beating RJ at the 1990 Atlanta Supercross, which still, this photo drives RJ nuts to this day. They have their own podcast called Podium to Present, by the way. Now they're best buds off the track. It's really cool. I could talk forever to RJ about stories of the 80s when he was dominating and I was a kid and I knew he was the guy, but that's not the goal today. The goal today is to get some more takes on the thing that everybody else has a take on, which is Haiden Deegan at the SMX finale in Vegas and also the upcoming Motocross of Nations. Does an old school guy like RJ say that's the way racing should be or not? Let's get to RJ, and he's got a lot of takes on a lot of things happening in the sport right now. Okay, we are joined by the great Rick Johnson, all-time hero, legend. He's not going to say it, but unfortunately, I don't want to make you cry here, but highly underrated. I mean, I can talk about titles and win percentages and all that for an hour here, but we're not here to make your case. I'm just here to get your take. Everybody's had a take on what's going on, and we're not just going to talk about Degan today. We got Donations coming up, a whole season in the rear view, and I know you still follow this closely.
Yeah.
But, bro, you're wearing a Bad Boy Club shirt.
Back in the day, buddy. So if you look behind me, 1984 is when I met those guys. If you talk to them, they're like, yeah, he came up and he begged us for shorts and this and that. But no, I met the Simo brothers and Beaver Thediosakis down there. They were from Chicago. They raced the Winter Am. And so they came up with this idea to make shorts. And so Brock and I went by there and got some. That was back when stubby shorts in the high running shorts and stuff. So these big bloomers came out and I just kind of joked around. I said, I'll wear them over my pants. And there's the picture. Second moto, 1984, was out in front leading it, and Shock blew and ended up getting fourth or something like that. But that started the relationship. And then 1986, my battle with Bailey was the first time that anybody wore it. And I put a patch up on my shoulder. So it was a great thing. And then now with Pay Dirt and people referencing Bad Boy and stuff like that, I went and reached out to Robin Offner, Lorenz Offner's brother, LOP, back in the day, is the attorney and who owns the trademark now. And I said, I'd like to license it and let's have some fun. It's something that I could do with our son Luke and my wife Stephanie, because she actually worked at a Life's a Beach store with Stevie Wright back in the day. So it's full circle. And what's kind of cool is that we open it up at Sand Sports Show. It's a big off-road show out here this weekend. And people are like, I remember that back in the day. I'm like, yeah, I was the guy. And they're like, wait a minute, you're the Rick Johnson, blah, blah, blah. And so it's fun. It's something I don't plan on being a t-shirt mogul, but it's something that I'm going to do, as well as real quick. I've decided, because I did it before at Redbud. When I talked to Wolfgang Serb and Giuseppe Luongo back in the day, I said, why don't you give out an individual gold? Because Ben Townley, Grant Langston, guys that have dominated their class, but they get no recognition because it's all about the team, trust me, that's the big thing. The team win is everything. I'll sacrifice my individual gold to win the team deal. But when you are a standout guy, like those two guys were, Why not give him an award? So Wolfgang Serb said, we're going to initiate it, but it's not really the kind of award that I wanted to get. It's Saparides I want to watch
Yep.
for winning the race, and I always wear it, and people talk about it and stuff like that. So I did Rockwell watches for the guys at Redbud, and so this time I'm working with Tom Duma, Fine Jewelers, and I made a Bad Boy 10 pendant that's
Oh,
got knobby tire around the outside, and it has the MX2 Open and MXGP winner. So I'm going to give that to them because kids nowadays are wearing jewelry again. You know what I
oh
mean?
yeah.
I wore them back in the day. They're a little ridiculous, like these gigantic. They're like
Mm-hmm.
little Flavor Flav. But anyways, I thought, you know what? I'm going to give them something that's more than a trophy, that maybe somewhere down the road, because all of this great fame is going to end at some point, and they're going to look back and go, you know what, God, the guy that was one of the top American guys in America gave me this award back in 2025. So I'm going to be presenting that. I've talked to David Luongo. I'm going to be presenting that at the awards banquet. And so it's a way for me to say, hey, you're a bad MFer, so welcome to the club, and here's your little pendant. So just having some fun with it.
You're right. We don't really celebrate class championships, and plus, some of the guys from the smaller countries, their team's never going to win. At least they get something. But this is perfect that you brought up Bad Boy Club, the kids wearing jewelry these days, and all that, because whenever something crazy happens on the track, like happened with Degan and Shimoda over the weekend, the argument, okay, the Degan thing was probably over the line and people are super pissed at him. But
Yep.
in general, you still hear the, dude, that's old school racing. And then they just name any old champion from, dude, people even brought up Dunge this weekend. I'm like, Dunge never hit anybody. You can't use Dunge as the example of they used to hit each other. But certainly your era, there have been guys that weren't afraid to be aggressive. So for some reason, you're old school. So old school gets assumed that all contact is great. And you have a Bad Boy Club shirt.
Yeah.
So give me your take. Is it like that's old school racing, or is that's too much?
That was bullshit. You know what I mean? Because here's why. All right. Because I feel like my career resembles what Haiden is going through. Okay. And I'll try to keep this quick. Hannah was the guy. I mean, Brock was awesome. Hansen was awesome. There was a lot of great guys, but Bob Hannah was the polarizing bad dude. I mean, he was a bad man. He had a punching bag on his thing. He would say, "Oh," he didn't cuss him, but I'll rake that MFers, I'll rake that freaking leg, blah blah blah. He would publicly say that. So, me wanting to be him, I even ran a duckbill for a while. Why the hell I did that? Because I wanted to be like Bob Hannah. And so then I thought, I got to have guys fear me, and I got to race aggressive and knock guys down and do all this stuff. And I was. I mean, someone would even kind of glance at me. I was like, oh, it's on. Boom. And I would take them out and do stupid stuff. And then Jeff Spencer had a talk with me before a race because I worked with Spencer. Spencer was the Honda trainer, but he helped a lot of guys. And he just goes, RJ, they hate you. I said, no, bullshit. They fear me. And
Yeah.
he goes, no. He goes, no, they don't fear you. They hate you. And they don't care. Kawasaki, Suzuki, Honda, who wins, as long as you don't win. I mean, you're creating something that you shouldn't do. And I thought about it. And at first I was 18 years old, Haiden Deegan. I'm like, F that. They're going to fear me. I'm going to show them I'm a true champion, all this bullshit. And then I thought about it. I'm like, wait, I'm not Bob Hannah. I'm really not a mean guy. I will race aggressive, but why am I messing up my winning for a vendetta to take somebody out? So I changed my MO. If somebody got me and I could get them back, I would go after them. I would go after them hard. But if the opportunity wasn't right and I could just pass them and go, it was better to beat them, just kick their ass, than knock them down. And I'm not hurting my result, but I'm crushing them emotionally rather than I gotta hit them physically and do all that shit. So what happened for me in 1982 is I broke my wheel in the first moto, had a 20-point lead, came in with a 5-point deficit, had to win the race. Donnie had to get third or fourth. Brock Glover takes off. I'm in second. Donnie and I are by ourselves, and I'm like opening up the turn. I'm letting him come in. I'm going after him, and he's just backing off. And he's looking at me, and he's just shaking his head. I literally cried for 45 minutes because the motos were 45 minutes back then. I cried for 45 minutes and he just followed me around. I lost the championship by 2 points and that's it. I feel that Haiden, because he got taken out by Kitchens. Oh, well, it happens. He should have just gone there, been a champion. The bonuses that they get on the single event win are huge.
That's true. Right? It's $100,000. Yeah.
Right. And it used to be $100,000 for a championship. Now it's like $1 million for a championship and $100,000 for. So I feel that he should have said, you know what? That happened. I'm going to go show the world that I'm the dominant guy. I'm going to whip Jo Shimoda's ass, let him, and I'm going to congratulate him, but I'm going to take home that day bonus, the second in points bonus. I mean, all of the things that he would have got. And also he could have gotten up there and said, I'm the true champion. Look what I did. And it's never going to happen again. But instead, he's stopping, aiming at him, doing all that kind of shit. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's terrible. And what's funny is that people have, a lot of people have come to me like, so you were kind of a dick too. So what do you think about it? It was over the line. And I don't, some people come to me and go, oh, that's Brian. He's wanting him to be medal. I go, no, it's not. Brian's a champion. I mean, Brian is a marketing genius and all that stuff. Haiden is a very arrogant, rightfully so, very arrogant, cocky young man who doesn't give a shit what anybody thinks. His social media, he's douchey with his, his dancing and all that stuff. Hey, but if girls like it, and that's if people are patting his acting douchey and people are like, girls dig it.
He's got fans. There's no doubt about that. He's got fans.
Wait a minute. I was wearing, turquoise shorts with a mullet, with baggy pants and dancing like MC Hammer. So I really can't cast any stones for doing douchey shit because I was probably the king of it. I'm talking to Wardy. They hated the things that the writers hated me because I was more flamboyant. But that's the way it is. But when it comes to sheer competition, you should have taken one shot at him and then took off and then just go. And be a man and congratulate Joe because Joe has really elevated the game, and I love his authenticity, and he's a badass. And so I feel that Haiden was out of line, took it too far, and I think we should probably bring in a stop and go flag for these guys that are these repeat offenders. If you're taking multiple shots at a guy and you're up there, give them a black flag. They got to come into the starting line. They stop. They go back to 15th and then start again. I'm going to fine you after the race. That the money doesn't go to the guy you took out. I think I would say, Haiden Deegan, I fine you $100,000. Write a check, Jo Shimoda, and hand him the $100,000 because you offended him. Where do these fines go? I don't know.
It goes to the Alpine Stars medics, but yeah, as great a cause that is, no one's going to hit anybody if they had to give their competitor money.
Oh, walk up with cash. Oh, make them count it out. $100 bills, because then they would show up with nickels and pennies and do all that kind of stupid shit. But no, you have to hand him the money. It's like when my boys would fish fight, I'm like, no, hug him. And they're just like, you're making me do this, Yeah. But NASCAR would do that, didn't do that. But if you take somebody's win away, fine them $50,000 that they have to pay them directly. You watch.
That would make them think twice. So that's the thing. It's not like, again, there was contact back in your day. You had a logo that said "Bad Boy" right on it, but there is a line of that's too much. At the same time,
we have to have trust amongst thieves. And so as I told you, when I got hit by somebody or like Ronnie was my big offender because Ronnie had a game plan. He wasn't in shape, so he wasn't going to be strong the last 10 minutes. He wasn't. But there was times that he would get so far out in front like Jean-Michel Bale, and then you couldn't catch him. You know, I
Yep.
mean, he could get out there and he could relax, and then he could beat you. So when we would get into a physical thing, he didn't care I did punch him in the face once. If I was going to go after him after the race, he didn't care. He's like, if I can knock him down and I haul ass for 2 laps, he's not going to catch me before the end of the race. I'll deal with that after the race.
Yeah.
And so I was ready for it, you know, and that goes back into what we talked about yesterday, racecraft. Do we ever see Cooper Webb get taken out?
Not really. Nope.
Because when he passes somebody, like I've seen Chase Sexton come at him and he's like inside, and Chase is like, I have no angle. And you know, Cooper's holding his position really tight on the inside. So you're gonna dump the front wheel if you smack him in the back, unless you just run over the top of him. But I feel these riders have to go expect the guy to come in the inside. Don't rail the corner. Come to the first couple laps. I would coach my guys, say, stay to the inside, give them the outside, then force them out, then give them the option, get behind me or I blow you off the track. That's racecraft, you know? And I see a lot of, you know, I saw Mookie get taken out and he was mad, but it's like, you're going around the outside. It's good, you know, when Fernandez or somebody hit him. Oh no, it was
Marcia?
No, it was Marvin Muskin.
And Anaheim a couple years ago. That's right. Yes.
Years ago, and it's like, if you open the door, you open the door, and it's like, well, you know, or it's like, you couldn't pass me for 19 laps. You're going to take me out on the 20th? Yeah, I'm going to. You know, I was setting it up, and I was doing whatever. So we have to. I wish we were more like not MotoGP, but MotoGP. You watch Marquez, the Marquez brothers, you watch all that whole cast, how hard they race. And I mean, they're going 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And they're out breaking each other, sliding. And look at Marc Marquez. Guy's got a smile this big. I mean, he is so stoked. Like literally, I literally get emotional at how awesome that guy is. And how close to death he's been, how big crashes and every win. And he's not done yet. I mean, he's going to race another year. But then we got these guys that are like, well, I don't want to say anything because social media is going to talk bad about me. And so now we got Jett, who's a doorknob. We got Hunter, who's actually got some personality, unless he's whining because he got beat by his brother. And then you got Haiden, who's like, yeah, but see you next week. That's like, we have no personalities, you know? So I don't know. That's a long rant on a short question, but
I think they are all worried about the blowback. Jett has personality. I think he's definitely goes into the shell because you're never going to please everybody. And I think that actually does bother him. But you told me something yesterday about the racecraft. You actually practiced? You had tag games that you practiced during the week to learn how to prevent yourself from getting taken out?
Every week I practiced stopping and I practiced hitting guys in the back wheel. So I could take, because, you know, at the time, you know, Brock and I had the same track, but Brock was Yamaha, I was Honda. So, you know, we didn't really practice together. Even when we were both on that, we would go to our track and had our own training schedules and all the different stuff, which I think these guys, this kumbaya and these camps, and they're all hanging out together is bullshit. You know, they're flying on the same jets to the races. And no, you gotta keep some edge, you know?
Yep.
So for me, I worked on my braking. And so the hardest thing is getting comfortable losing the front wheel and riding it out. So I used to do a thing where I would have a thing and I would go first gear wide open, wah, to that corner, and then check myself and see how quick I could stop. And every time I would lose the front wheel probably 3 or 4 times, getting it to the edge and then stopping. But I never, because most of the time, you know, when you're new, you go, whoa, shit. Almost crashed. So then you give it up and you go around the corner. But no, I got to where I could be comfortable out braking people. So that's a major racecraft. So when you come inside of somebody, you can outbrake them. Or if I see Ronnie coming on the inside of me, I can hear him. It's 500 two-stroke, and I know he's there, and I can feel him. So what I do is I don't telegraph the punch. Meaning, as soon as we're coming to the thing, I'm acting like I'm racing position. Then also, poof, I go to my braking position quicker. He can't stop as quick. I square him up, and then I blast him on the exit. Okay. The other thing is this tag would teach you how to ride. And so what we do is we chase each other around a flat area and you couldn't go outside of it. And you have to square the guy off and hit his back wheel without going down. So you get comfortable hitting people's back wheel and not crashing because there's a technique to it. Because most of the time when someone brake checks you, boom and go down. With Wardy and a lot of guys, I would come in and I would hit their back wheel in the rut, not to knock them down, but it's like, damn, like he's that on me that he's hitting me in a corner because I can't show a wheel. But if I just come in and go right at the pivot point, bop, or if I can hit them and bounce their back wheel out, then I can shoot underneath them. So yeah, there's plenty of practice stuff. I taught Sebastian Tortelli, how to take people out when they go to take you out. Is you come on these bull turns and someone comes into you, you lift your inside leg, they come up to you, you just put your foot on their side plate because they're in the pivot, and it throws them on the ground. Now you got to make sure that you don't put your leg, your foot under there. And that's why I tell him, if you kick somebody down, you just tell them, well, you came into me, I was falling down, so I just put my foot out, even though you're intentionally kicking their leg to shove them off of you. Because what happens? You come in, a guy gets set to neutral, and this guy, the energy goes there, the energy takes him up, and now this guy goes. But if you're leaning, you put your foot on him. So I dropped Tortelli. We're screwing around, and I said, come inside, stuff me. So he comes in, I drop him. And we go again, I drop him again. He's like, I keep losing the front wheel. I'm like, are you losing the front wheel? Think about this. And so yes, there's ways to practice this, but not the problem I feel everybody has now is, don't get me wrong, Eldon is a great trainer and all that different stuff, but he can't teach you racecraft. He doesn't know what it's like to race against somebody. He doesn't know what it's like when someone's trying to kill you on the racetrack and what's etiquette, crossing on a triple or coming in and you got me,
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm saying is you have to know when you have to surrender. When someone's coming in, man, they worked that hard. They got the position on me. I got to give it up. Or if it's last lap, screw it. I'm just going to, I'm going to take the hit.
The kick doesn't always work. It all depends on the angles.
Exactly. But it keeps people off of you and it can help you survive that second turn melee. Because typically the second turn is a 180 and so there's things that you can do to prevent someone taking you out. Like I didn't get taken out that much. I had Hannah knocked me off the track once. I had Bailey T-bone me once. I think that was it.
That's about it. Yeah. And like you said, Cooper Webb, like we have all these mercenaries out there. People talk about Anderson or Barsha or Ferrandis or whoever. They very rarely get him. There's been a couple of collisions, I'd say, but they can't get him like they get everybody else. Yeah.
Right. Because he's too savvy. Way too savvy.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm sure you did the same thing to a degree. I think when everybody's practicing during the week, they're just trying to go faster, right? They're working on maybe their technique or they're just looking at a lap time and they're trying to match that. But I don't think they're thinking about passing. I don't think they're working on that part. They're just working on riding.
So when I coached Sebastian, I was very proud of that because I called him T-Sot Tortelli because they were given a T-Sot watch for all the semis that he had to make it out of. And he's like, don't call me that. But I'm like, how many of those watches do you have? He's like
he wasn't making it through the heats.
Right, because he didn't make it directly in the heat, so he had to go to the semi. And so when you won the semi, you got the T-Sot watch. So I called him T-Sot Tortelli, and it pissed him off. But what I was saying is that when I worked with him, I said, we got to make you fast all the time. Because you go to these test tracks and everybody uses this much of the track and they're trying to go faster. And I was faster earlier today. Well, the track was wet, or it was in a tacky spot. No, run inside lines today. I don't care. I don't care how fast it is, but beat that time. So the inside lines are, let's say 3 seconds a lap slower, but who cares? You're working on a technique. Now do all outsides, all momentum, Yep. Now come in, let's wheel tap, don't blitz, let's wheel tap or double, whatever the technique is, change it up. But I don't see these guys doing that. I see let's go out and go as fast as we can. And then when we leave, we're either A, we're great, we got the fastest time, or B, we suck
Yep.
because someone's faster than me. I didn't care. I really didn't care about practice times. I knew what I was going to do in the race. In practice, I was looking for passing lines and all the different stuff. Yes, did I want to be the fastest? Yeah, but something about me was hard without the motivation of a win to just go fast.
Hey, you know who else is usually not good in practice and then wins the main? That's Cooper Webb does that too.
Yeah.
Does the same thing.
Yeah.
He's like 10th.
Well, go ahead.
He's like 10th in qualifying every week, even when he wins.
Right. Yeah. But he's looking, and you watch, he's looking for passing lines, because here's the thing: how fast you go in practice,
yeah,
nobody's around you. In a heat race, there's two guys that want to, 2 or 3 guys that want to win. Yep. And now in the main event, there's 6 guys, 8 guys that want to win, and they're taking up this space. So you just can't be faster than the guy if you go right behind him. So you have to have alternate stuff. And what's crazy with this week is that, like, I just want to see people do well, and I try to do for people what I wish someone would do for me. And so when I was struggling with my wrist, Brock Glover, who was my mentor, who was my hero, he's like, RJ, I'm helping you out. So the best physical shape I was ever in, Brock was like calling me on Wednesday. We're going to go, run with the triathletes. We're going to bicycle. We're going to do all the different stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I need to return that. So what's funny is I reached out to all of these guys, like all of them. I'm like, I would just want to help. I don't want a job. I don't want to be your helmet carrier. I have some techniques that I think will help you. I think they think that I'm going to go, well, back in 1986, I did this. No, I'm a student of what James Stewart did, of what Ricky Carmichael did, of what Stephen Everts did, what Jett is doing. I mean, It's a puzzle that can be beat, but the problem is everyone just wants to keep bringing a bigger hammer. The only one that has ever that when I reached out has taken my advice was Cooper Webb this year, and we talked about that yesterday.
I can't believe this story. I mean, this is Pittsburgh. He had to win one more race because if Sexton had won out, Sexton would have beat him for the title. He needed to win one. We had the race in New Jersey where there were 2 sets of whoops, and he got obliterated. And the next week he wins the race. So tell me this story. I had no idea you had some involvement.
And my one of my proudest moments is he had the fastest section through the whoops, the first time ever all year long. So I reached out to him and said, hey, Coop, I just want to help. And so to encourage him to listen to me, I sent him a video of me bouncing through whoops, at 100 miles an hour down in San Felipe with spectators around me and stuff like that. So I said, listen, I'm still navigating a vehicle through whoops and where I look and what I'm doing. And so I said, let me help you. And he and I have always been on a good, I always can, I send him a picture of me with number 2 winning a championship. So I'll always say, hey, good job. Congratulations on another title or something. And he always thanks RJ. I mean, we're not buddies or anything like that. He hasn't invited me to dinner or anything. But I said, I think I can help you through the whoops. And so he told me what his problem was. I'm not going to go into too deep, but where he was looking, what he was doing, how he was approaching it. And I said, you got to do this, and try it. And sure enough, he sent me a video, and he was getting it. He was still just off a little bit. He was trying a little too hard on the exit. You want to spread the load out and where your speed is and where you're looking and all that different stuff. But dude, he crushed it. And that was that. I think that was that little bit that he needed to throw Sexton off, because Sexton was always faster than him on practice times and always faster than him on section times through the whoops. And so now all of a sudden Coop comes in, I think it's Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, it was Pittsburgh. Yep. And Sexton catches him and you're like, oh, he's going to go right by. And then he just didn't. Because
he didn't have he didn't have that 1 second, second and a half through the whoops anymore. Yep. Maybe Coop wasn't quite as fast, but you have to be a big amount to do it. So I was really proud of that for myself, but really, really proud of this. Was all over the phone. I wasn't at the track. I wasn't telling him. I wasn't pointing where I want to look. I told him how to look at the whoops, what the bike sees versus what you see, and all these different things. And it worked for him. So, and the same thing, I reached out to AP, and I'm like, dude, I hear how the Epstein bar and all this different stuff. I said, can I just give you what I did back in the day? Because we started with Golden State, Supercross, Motocross, 500 motocross, USGP in America, Japan, Paris, blah, blah. We raced all year long. Then come back and then do the Transcal at the end of the year as well. So don't tell me
I know I
about.
laugh when people complain about how many races there are now, and I do believe there are too many. But yeah, you probably raced 49 times a year. Is that an exaggeration? Something like that?
No, we raced almost every weekend.
Yeah, and
My
no one got
vacation,
Epstein Barr back then.
no, I mean we got tired.
Yeah,
You know, it's like, okay, guess what? And so what I knew that I was overtraining when I sat on the starting line, and if these guys don't admit this, they're lying. Is sit on the starting line and go, I just wish the race was over. I kind of don't really care about the result. I wish that I was putting my boots in my bag
yeah.
and packing my gear and I was getting on a flight home more than I can't wait to go into this first turn. And so that's how I gauged my emotions on if I'm overtraining. Because man, when your hands are sore, your hands are always sore, even if they're not blistered. There's blisters underneath. That's where you get the calluses, is because it's deep blisters, and then they heal, and then you build calluses. Your fingers hurt, your hands hurt, you're roosted, your face hurts, your ass is chapped. If you're racing right now in Florida, your butt is just red from sand and sweat and all that stuff. So you just have to find a way to make sure that desire is at 100%. Because I think if you look at Jett, he's not like this perfectly chiseled, ripped, guy, but his craft is off the charts. And I think his ability to read the rear wheel and also communicate to his engineers kills everybody.
We'll get back to that. But you told me yesterday that there were days where you would go to ride during the week and just say, not today. So tell me that story.
So ever since I was a kid, I would have certain days that I just was like, you ever like sometimes get that comfortable stare and you're just like, I don't want to blink because this kind of feels good. And then you start to think, I'm doing it on purpose right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The screen
remembers a kid in like history class who's just staring, or on a road trip, someone's just staring, and you're like, what is going through their mind right now? They're just staring.
And then I started thinking, what am I looking at? I'm like, this is the one time I'm not looking at anything. I'm seeing everything, but I see nothing. And so racers have this ability, this ADD, whatever you want to call it, to micro focus on stuff, important things. It could be that rock, it could be that rut, it could be whatever the case may be. And you have like these like super focused moments. And then there was days I would come out and I would just kind of see everything, but I see nothing. And then I used to force myself when I was 17 and 18 because my dad was like, Mark Barnett burns 5 gallons of gas every day, and you got to do this. And Bob Hanna runs through the jungle. So I thought that I had to do that. But then I learned that I always fell. I'd lose the front wheel, smash my pinky, scratch my elbow, take 1% away from me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm going home. I'm just going to go. I'm going to take a day off. I don't care if it's in the middle of the week. I just need to take my time off. And when I was strong and 86, 87, 88, before I got hurt in 89, that's what I would do. There was times that I'm just like, I don't feel it today. So I'm going to leave and I'm going to come back. And then I felt a little guilty because I didn't train that day. So I trained even harder but I felt good. And then when I got to the race, I'd have this feeling in my hands. I felt like I could just crush handlebars. And when I had the feeling, I'm like, it's going to be a miracle if somebody beats me today. I just feel it. And
partially though, because you took that day off at times, kept that emotion there. Yeah.
Well, and Bailey and I talked about it is that he's like, God, you ever like you're sick and you don't do anything all week except lay in bed and take antibiotics, but then you come and you have this awesome race.
Yep.
Because your emotions are there. This is such an emotional, like it's fighting. And motorcycle racing is the one that if you mess up, you pay drastically. So there's fear of getting hurt. You say you don't think, yes, you don't want to get hurt. It hurts, Yeah. So if you're emotionally in the game, you're going to be faster and you'll work past that. But these guys, I think they feel I have to be on this regimen. I have to eat this food. I have to do this. I have to do that. No, I disagree with that. And you have to sometimes just go, I'm not feeling it. let's not do it. And I think that's what happened with AP, is that he feels like I have to stay on this regiment. Once again, Eldon puts together a great program. I think Eldon is better with a fat kid than a skinny kid, because when he took Ricky from fat to skinny,
Yeah.
took James from fat to skinny, but when you take a skinny kid and you make him mega lean, it doesn't work. So like when I got down to like 3 to 5% fat, I sucked. I look bitching, like I look cool in a t-shirt, and I was all six packed and ripped up, and arms are all shredded and stuff. But if I didn't have a couple more calories on me, I was dead at the end of the moto. So that's the thing, is that you have to find out what works for you, not just because it worked for Ricky, because
Yeah.
Ricky's program hasn't worked for anybody but Ricky. It about killed Ben Townley.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he's such a unique animal, and Jeannie and him had such a great relationship. I mean, that woman would just drive him, and most people would break, and he's just like, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. I mean, he would fall on a right-hand corner and then come out and do literally 20 minutes of right-hand corners, and she would just stopwatch. I
Yeah.
couldn't do that. I'd be like, I'll fix it next week.
Yeah.
But
I also wonder this. There's a huge difference in what you guys did and where you guys were in California. And I know it was hot, but I still think 10 years from now, some scientific doctor trainer is going to be like, yo, you guys are all training outside in Florida in July and you're racing year round. What are you, dumb? You're out in the humidity on purpose? I still wonder if we're going to find out that was great for Ricky. It worked for 10 years for him, but that might not work for everybody all year round.
Well, and that's the thing, is that, I work with some of the greatest people. I had John Howard, who was an Olympic cyclist, won the Ironman, had the speed record of a bicycle. So I used him for bicycling. I had Ian Johnson, who was a breathing coach, who taught me how to breathe properly. I had a jiu-jitsu coach that made me feel confident and strong. And so I wasn't afraid to get my ass kicked after a race. So I had all these people. I had a nutritionist that I would call each week and go over this, and liked some of it, didn't like some of it, and a chiropractor. So I had all of my things. But the whole idea is to peak on Saturday. Peak on Saturday. I didn't care what I was like on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because a lot of guys are like, I got to peak and peak. Yeah. I just made sure that I was fast on and all my training. I didn't get the runner's high. I wasn't like O'Mara and Wardy and all that just loved training. I trained because it made me money and I could be faster on a motorcycle. That was it.
Yeah. Yeah. You weren't you didn't even care about the times. If you felt you were doing enough, you were doing enough.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, there was times that my mechanic, Brian Lunnis, could whip my ass on a bicycle. He'd piss me off because he would sit in my draft all the time, and then he would charge, and he was little, and so he climbed really well.
Yeah.
But like, once again, if I'm winning, and they make me out to be this party guy and stuff like that, but why was I always fast at the end of the races? I was able to chase down David Bailey, Johnny O'Mara, Jeff Ward, Brock Glover at the ends of the motos because I felt that I had the right combo.
This makes me laugh because we did not intend to do this, but you know who else also apparently sucks on a bicycle and in the gym and then is the strongest guy at the end of the race is Cooper Webb again.
Right.
Apparently all those guys can out-train him, no problem. Maybe his mechanic could, just like you said about yours. But he knows the 20 minutes that matter, he can figure it out.
Yep. Well, that's the idea there, is that you got to find what works for you. And I feel that I'm going to say nothing against it, but that's kind of like bless her heart, like that kind of statement. But I feel these trainers that they have out there, it's really easy for me to come in and take you to the gym and crush you, you know, and some of them, they're good bicycle guys, so they can take them out on a bicycle and crush them. But the idea is that, are you building these guys to just to feel like the baddest mother effer in the world on the weekend? And I don't see that. I don't know.
A program. It's a program. Last thing, let's just talk donations here. I think Degan might be back in. He's riding with a broken collarbone. We'll see how the team works out for now. Talk about your feelings on that event, because I feel like in your time, it's probably more so because it was relatively new. Team USA winning. I mean, you probably remember the first time you heard they won, and then you're on the
Yeah,
team right
yeah,
after
yeah.
that. Let's talk about the special feelings of that event. No dollars on the line, but it meant a lot.
So I remember being a kid and opening it up and seeing Jim Pomeroy and Hannah and I think maybe Tommy Croft and some different guys going over to Czechoslovakia, and they had
Yeah,
no idea where they're at, what they're doing,
yeah,
and the Belgians were so strong, and the Finns were so strong, and the Swedes were so strong, and the British were so strong. I mean, it was taking on the world. But then in '81, when that Honda team came together, and I'm going to probably, O'Mara, Hansen, Chuck Son, Jim Gibson, Magoo,
you nailed it. Good job. Yeah,
so and they won.
yeah,
They didn't win one event, but two events,
yep,
which I've kind of been shorting myself because I've won five because there was two in 1 year, but
yep.
we kind of don't talk about that. But anyways, it's like I'm representing the country. When I'm walking with an American flag, I represent the country. I'm like the Olympics. I'm like, all of these things. And so it's us a chance, to do that. And so when I got a chance to go in '84, and my results were terrible in the race. I blew up my 500 in the first moto. I was in a crash in the second moto. I came from, I think, second or third to last, but I had the energy. I got all the way to seventh place, which is quite respectable in whoops this big in Finland.
Yeah.
But my seventh place is what was part of what allowed us to win. The same thing, I blew up my because the gas was different. I blew up my 250. Brock came in as an alternate. Brock rode great. O'Mara rode great. Wardy had, I think, the race of his life. And I'm riding around in like seventh or something, diced with Dave Thorpe on a 250. And I think my sixth or seventh place was the one score that we used. I think they threw out my other moto. So was I the superstar? No, but we all won together, and we have to go. And so in Finland, Dave is like, oh my wrist hurts. I don't know this. I'm like, well, I got the energy. I'll start second row because I can charge. I can go wide open for 45 minutes. I'll be good. Well, we all get into a crash. We didn't expect that, but that's what you have to do. And there's stories about I think Stanton went after, I don't know who it was, if it was Gabors or Bale or somebody, is like, you need to make sure that he does not get in the top 10. So there's team orders, not that you're trying to kill somebody, but
Yeah.
in the start, if I can hold him back and
Yeah.
stop that moving forward. Same thing going into the last round at Dilla is a 500 250. I said, Wardy, whatever happens, if I can support you, we're going to go. I somehow got a good start. We came around in second and third. I looked at Wardy and I go, like go, because Kees Vanderven from Holland was in front. And then he looked at me and he goes, you go. And I'm like, okay. So then I went over
Incredible.
and
Yep.
ran the shit out of Kees Vanderven, then got in front of him and then roosted his goggles and then make sure I brake checked him. And so he had to pull his goggles off and roosted his eyes a couple times and then took off. So to me, it's one of those things that these riders, that if they pass on it, you talk to Rhino, you talk to Godrowski, you talk to Stanton, when you do it and you're up there. I mean, do you remember seeing Eli Tomac, like when he drank his third beer at Red Bud,
Yeah.
and he's got the goggles on and he's,
Mhm.
like, have you ever seen that emotion out of him from winning multiple nationals, multiple supercrosses, Daytona 1,000 times? No.
Okay, we got a part two this thing because we both had our great internet working. So we were talking to Nations. Yes, the 2022, the reaction that Tomac had. Yeah, there's nothing quite like. For me, it was more. I just saw how disappointed the fans were in 2018, and it was such a better atmosphere when the team won. But yeah, there's nothing really like that anywhere.
No, and that's the thing that I think that you want to remember. And we're so conditioned to be good winners and bad losers, and that's one of the things that I take from 1986 is that the guys knew that they were outclassed. I mean, David was on fire, Johnny was on fire, I was doing good, and but you know what though? The world celebrated with us. And then when
Mhm.
we went back in 2016, and we were in the back of the truck I was in the back of the truck with David and Johnny and Bale and Rinaldi, and all these guys are coming around, like the smile on their face. They were remembering how strong of a team we were that year. And the world does a good job at respecting Americans, and the Americans don't do a good job at respecting others, because greatness is greatness. And right now, Jett is the guy. And so we need to celebrate how awesome that we have that. Yes, it could be bitter because he's not an American, but that shouldn't change it. Same thing with Jean Michel. He outclassed everybody when he was here. And, there was, I beat him some, everybody beat him a little bit, but he had his, he was doing the right things. And it bums me out because when I went to Europe, I always want to be number two. Like when I was in France, Jackie Vimon, Bale, they're your number one guy. I want to be number two. When I was in Italy, Rinaldi, Puzzar, number one, do. If I'm in Sweden, whatever the case may be, but they gave us that respect, and I wish the Americans did the same here. I'm seeing all this stuff and these fans coming over and yelling at Jett and this and that. They need to open up the rules and let him give a guy a poke in the face. You come get in my face and scream at me like that. Like, I don't know what that guy said to him after the final, but it looked like the guy needed to be punched in the face.
Yeah, code of conduct works both ways. Yeah, yeah, it is totally interesting like that. But you know what? This is a problem today. People might have thought this stuff then. They didn't have ways to express it, and then it builds and it builds and it builds. I do feel bad for dude. Australians. I thought Americans loved Australians. I didn't even know Australian was like. We think Australians are cool. I feel like we're manufacturing something here.
Well, and Australia, and I have some Australian friends, and that they're like the little brother. Okay, America is Hunter Lawrence, who set the road, who set the pace and all the different stuff. And now Australia is Jett Lawrence coming in, and they're the little brother that always that's wanted to beat America. Look at swimming, look at other sports, look at triathlon, look at all but you have some guys, but the world is a different place. When Casey Stoner stepped out, and became world champion, there people are people, and we're all of the same. You know what I mean?
So the Lawrence has said it 1,000 ways. This is where they want to live. This is where they wanted to live. This is the best country in the world. I just like these days people have to find something to be mad about. I really didn't think Australians would rub people the wrong way.
No, and it's just and the reason is because he's so dominant. That's all. People don't want to see. I wanted to see Mike Tyson get knocked down, and I love Mike Tyson. I wanted to see him come back. I wanted to see Ricky Carmichael. I loved it when he came back. I loved it when James Stewart came back. All these dominant guys, you love their climb, but then when the guy gets to the top, people don't want you there anymore because they want to see you fight again. My friends would do the same thing. They would go, man, we just pray you get a bad start. And I'm like, you know how hard it is to get a good start? And now they go, no, but they go, Rick, it's boring when you get out front. I'm like, I need a little boring in my life. I work hard to have a little boring in my life. But that's where, sidebar, I'm a fan now. They need, and I talked to Mike Pelletier about this, is they need to constitute the yellow flag part way. So that starts.
Dude, I love it. A restart.
A restart at halfway. That way you get a point for leading. So you're gonna fight for that point. But then just do exactly the way they did it in Washougal, where he walks down, boom, 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 boom. So it's not a chance to pass going into the corner, but it just you give up that distance. Because when a rider gets out front and he has 20 seconds or so, because the guys he's back there messing around. Let's say he gets into third place or fourth place, he's never going to catch the leader. And people are walking out. People are like, I do. I'm like, Jett's going to win, or Tomac's going to win, or Cooper Webb's going to win, or whatever, or Sexton, whatever, whoever it might be. I want to see him fight, and so we did it in truck racing, and it was awesome. We would go, throw a competition yellow at the middle, we would line up, take off, and then it was on for the last half of the race, and people were standing up and cheering. So Anyhow, sidebar.
No one felt when you did that in the truck racing that was like the sport didn't have integrity because it decided to throw a yellow. People thought it was okay.
Well, I as a racer fought it at first. I'm like, no, 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 no. You know how hard it is to build a lead, and then
Sure.
you're going to give that away. And but here's the thing: Jim Baldwin was a full dictator. He was spending he spent like $12 million in like 4 years, just making having ABC and ESPN and all that stuff. And he goes, I don't care what you want. I want to see a good race. I'm paying money. I want to see a race. We're throwing a yellow flag, and I had to eat my words. I go, because that makes racing awesome, and that's what we're here for.
That is
we
cool.
have
Now that we've seen a couple examples of it too, with the staggered restart, we know it can be done. Hey, one other thing that you made me think about here. Now that I get to talk to Carmichael and Stewart every weekend and hang out with the guys, I think on the outside we assumed they were the most confident human beings on earth, especially Stu, who was just next level with everything he did. And he talked so much about the insecurities and was next week the week they were finally going to get me and all that. So I think of guys that were on top for a long time like yourself. They all seem to have that in common. How did you fight that? Did you have that feeling? Did you wake up every Monday saying it could be over this Saturday? How did you deal with that?
You go through that training, you go through that, like as you're climbing the ladder, because I used to always wonder, I'm like, how do these guys, like these career intermediates,
Yep.
that like guys that just maybe that they're a career
Yep.
intermediate guy, that's as high as they're going to go. But they
Yep.
keep coming back and they keep coming back. And then I got to a certain point, you have these little plateaus, you think, well, maybe I'm not destined to be great. Maybe I'm not destined to do all these things that I thought I was going to do. So you doubt yourself. And then even now I have a bad race and I'm like, maybe it's over. Maybe, maybe my destiny, my best day is behind me. So what am I going to do? And that's the fear of losing. And I was more afraid of losing than I was stoked about winning.
That's what I wanted to hear. They've all told me that. You were the same way.
Absolutely. I didn't want to give Jeff Ward that chance to do that arm pump. God, that pissed me off. I hated it. Hated it.
Hey, look at this
And
photo I got. Look at this photo I got.
there it is. That's exactly true. Dude, that motivated me. So Wardy and I, when we do our Podium to Present podcast, we're great friends now. I mean, we
Yeah.
love each other. We're there for each other. And I go, what did you hate about me? And he goes, you would get up there and you'd finish a race and you do that bow, like, and the way we interpret it is like, you're welcome. You're welcome to experience my greatness. And I was like, what a dick. I'm like, no, I did it to like, thank you for cheering and thank you for, it's my way of saying thank you back. And he goes, no, we took it as like, you're welcome to experience my awesomeness. And I'm like, wow, that was misinterpreted really bad. And then I told him, when you did that little fist pump, I said, I would picture that every practice lap. I'm like, I'm not going to give that son of a bitch a chance to do that again.
Yeah. So that you had your little things
Yeah.
to try to stay on top. Your little thing. You never allowed yourself to feel like I got this.
I had days where I knew no one was going to touch me.
Okay.
I knew it.
Yeah.
1988 Daytona. I did some things on the track that I wasn't. I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. And I had other races where I'm just like, no one's going to beat me. 86 Carlsbad. I'm like, Wardy's
Yeah.
fast, Bailey's fast, but I know this track better than anybody. I know how it slicks up, and I know where I go. I think I was sixth in time qualifying, but I'm like, no one's beating me today.
Back to
And
what we said at the top of the show. You weren't even worried about those lines.
no, I didn't give a shit about that. I knew in the race I'd go 5 seconds a lap faster.
Yeah. But you have those little insecurities, almost on purpose. Do you have to do it almost on purpose? The fist pump
No,
to fire yourself up?
it comes naturally because and I talk about how hard my dad was on me in pay dirt,
Mhm.
but it's what made me who I am. I mean, he knew when to push me with negative energy, just like Jeannie Carmichael, Meanie Jeannie did to Ricky, and just like Big James did to James,
Yeah.
and then then you were talking that Big James would say, "Oh man, they're saying these racial slurs and blah blah blah, all this stuff to keep him motivated." When you have the right coach, aka or parent or somebody that knows when to go, I need to go negative now. I need to go positive. I got to build up. I got to tear down. I got to do these different things. And that's, but you fear of looking bad. You fear of failing. You fear of letting your team down, letting your friends down, letting your family down. And so to me, that was my fear of losing, because like everybody, because I saw it when I won, man, everybody came to my pit. Everybody loved me. Everybody was happy. My dad was happy when I called. My mom was ecstatic. My girlfriend, now my wife, was happy. And then when I lose, it's like, are you okay? Is that all right? You know, and that's what I'm seeing with it's sad, but this thing going on with the Lawrences bums me out. It truly bums me out. I mean, what's Hunter? You know, Hunter said on Gypsy Tales, you know, that he was thinking of quitting a couple years back because okay, maybe it's just my job to I got Jett to this level. Now I'm gonna I that's all I'm gonna do. I mean, he's making like probably what $4 million a year, and he's the
Yeah.
second guy, and
Yeah.
he's winning some races, and you know, yeah, your brother's outclassing you. So you know what? Let's make a change. Maybe you shouldn't practice together every day. Maybe you should get an edge, you know, just like the Marquez brothers. Alex is, you know, coming after, you know, his brother as
Yeah.
well with
Yep.
a different team, and he's going to do everything he can to beat him. But now Hunter's taking this role of that my brother's the superstar. He's the greatest guy. He's got this racecraft. You know, if I was his trainer, I would say, you know what, we're doing a couple things. Either A, I'm taking you to Europe and you're going to go be world champion. And now the Lawrences are separated and conquering the world. Or I'm going to take you to a different training location so that you aren't intimidated by your brother's greatness. And you have to find a way to beat him. That's not take him out, but maybe edge him on the
Yeah.
start. And let, you know, that this whole, it broke my heart to see Jett and Hunter crying after going 1-2 in our biggest series.
It was weird. It was weird. Yeah. Yeah. It was. I don't think I've ever seen anyone not celebrate to that degree. And I think long term people are worried about Jett when you win so much. I mean, I saw one of the most miserable people I've ever talked to at races was Ryan Villapoto at the peak of his abilities. And eventually, his interviews at me, I would interview him at the truck and he'd be like, you know what, man? Don't make me look like an asshole. Let's just not do this. Because he knew that people could not possibly understand why he sounded so miserable. But he was winning, and it was that weird, all I can do is someday lose, and winning, I'm numb to that. I don't think people can understand what that life at the top thing is like, where eventually you're just afraid of losing, but there's no joy left in winning. It's a scary place. I've seen it.
Well, here's the thing, and I talked about it in Pay Dirt, and I've talked about it on my road to recovery, where I put a gun in my mouth. I literally I walked down that dark road, but didn't pull it, and I'm so grateful that I didn't. But here's the thing: when you grow up, and you know, we didn't have any money. I had a bicycle and a mini bike, and I wanted to be a fast rider because I was terrible in school. They thought I was in the dumb class. I could barely read, couldn't spell for shit, and that was my problems. But happiness came from writing.
Yeah.
Now you accomplish everything that you ever thought you were going to accomplish and more,
Yeah.
and you still have these fears and all this stuff.
Right.
It doesn't take away. It feels good to go buy a bitchin' car. It
Yeah.
feels good to buy a bitchin' house. If it, you know, but it, and then it goes up and then it goes down,
Yep.
which that scares me more than anything about Jett is his boredom and him potentially being self-destructive, because you've seen it with Ferrari, you've seen it with Honda, you've seen it with Chevrolet, you've seen it with Ford. When you dominate, you're like, why am I working so hard? I can just cut back a little bit, you
Yeah.
know, then I cut back a little bit. Then they get their ass kicked. And now they're like, oh shit, now we got to work our way back up to the top. And so for him losing his joy by winning, you know, he needs to be more. And why Ricky was so good and so dominant for so long, he was that dog chasing that rabbit.
Yeah.
Okay. Every lap, he was just his sense of satisfaction, his sense of being was matching his best lap time and beating his best lap time. And it was over and over and over and over again. So those whatever 1 minute, okay, you're okay, you're okay, you're okay, you're
Yeah.
doing your job. That's where it needs to be, not yeah, thanks, I won. And because
Yeah. Yeah.
I got there, and it was the demise of me. Destroyed everybody at Unadilla in '88, and Hannah said I got first because Johnson's not human, and I had
Mhm.
like a 45-second lead. I was gone. I wasn't tired. I was just, it was at the peak of my career, and I remember. And you got to watch what you say because the universe hears it. God hears it. I'm sitting there. I'm kind of bummed out. And Lunas goes, "What's your problem? You did your job." And I know, dude, but I want a challenge. Well,
Mm.
hey, God says, okay, I hear that. You're
Uh-huh.
so good. Why don't you try it with one hand? See, if you're so good, try it with one hand. Guess what? Couldn't do it. And so that's the Jet's already got cars. He's got house. He's got jewelry. He flies on a jet. He's got millions of dollars in the bank. He's got all these different things, and he walks around sad. That's where I reference Mark Marquez. That is just, he is a breath of fresh air. There's somebody that's that dominant, and just like Rossi was, and just like Shoemaker and Senna and these guys that just had passion for racing and winning. And now, and it didn't matter. They week after week, and I see it even in Haiden. Gets up there, says two words.
Yeah.
Little dance, and he's not even doing that anymore because Brian said it. He goes, these guys are tired of getting chewed up, for what they say, so they don't want to say anything. They don't want to have any personality. But
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
what
we
it
don't
is.
want that. You want the guys to enjoy, because on the outside, which is what you're saying now you're just a fan. You would hate to think like this dream come true feels like you want it to be joyous. You want it to be awesome. All right, Bad Boy Club, where can people find this when it comes out?
RickyJohnson.com. I'm trying to keep it clean. We're setting up, I don't know, this business. So I'm setting up a
Yeah.
Shopify with my wife Stephanie, and we're
Okay.
figuring out how to put this all together. But we're doing some stuff. We're doing some tanks, some tees. Gonna do some desert flags. Gonna have fun with it. But as I said, it's a licensed deal. I want to bring it back, and I'm having some fun with this. So go to RickyJohnson.com, look under merch, and grab yourself a shirt. And you never know, I might have one for you at the race.
I
Are you a
mean,
medium?
if I'm welcome into the club, you have to be the decider. It's a
All
club.
right, exactly. But are you like a medium, so you look like a sausage casing, or do you want to go big and you going more?
I generally go large. I'm not going for the JT. Not going for the JT look.
What's wrong with that look?
Oh,
Wait,
dude.
what's wrong with that look is I don't have the muscles that he has, and so
Yeah,
I wear shirts that kind of fit.
yeah, that's what I'm going to do as well. One wash and the medium. Well, I can't even get it on.
I was
All
joking.
right, we'll see you at Ironman next weekend, and we will explain to the riders that this award is for them. That's the cool part. Cool.
100%.